Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations. Continuing on with another video for my Wonderscape Worlds Toolkit. In this video, we are going to be going over the Biomes Designer and all of its many tools and functions and systems. So let's go ahead and get started. Just be aware that along with this video, I will be separating up into a bunch of tinier videos and uploading those as well. So this is going to be the full step-to-step process for setting up your world for the Biomes Designer. As you can see here, if this is the first video you're watching, in my previous two long videos, I created this whole setup, and I did it all utilizing my toolkit. So the first thing we are going to want to do is to open up the scriptable tools, and we need to go to Design, and we need to make sure we choose the correct landscape and the correct landscape resolution. Again, if this is your first video watching, you just select your landscape, and the overall resolution is what you want. And then the landscape scale, which is going to copy your X and Y scale, and then the bounds size in which you want. And I will show that in a moment. We don't need an XY buffer for this. We don't need the world designer. We want the biomes designer. So let's go ahead and check mark that. And right now it is looking for one of these, which we are going to make a new one. I'm just going to select one so that I can go to them and create myself a new one here. Why are you doing this to me? Fine. Let's open this up. Content drawer. Not wanting to work. Fine. I want to make sure you guys are able to follow along. So we will go to PCG, data, data assets, biomes, core. So it is of type biome core data asset. Right click on it and search for data asset. You can find it in the miscellaneous section. And I'm going to create it from biome core, and it's going to show it for me. DA underscore YouTube example is what I'm calling pretty much everything. I'm going to place it in there. Now let's open it up. So these are the defaults. I'm going to actually mirror the defaults from the example that I have here. So 500, 12, 12, 3000. And the water level, because I don't know where it currently is, I'm going to set it to be that low. Now let's go over a few things here. We have here the biome blend range. So how far does each biome extend past their restricted bounds into the neighboring biomes? That's what that's for. This is a global setting. In the future, I may make it from determined via biome to biome. At the moment, that's just not what I'm doing. Biome cache cell size. This is what makes the generation more smooth because we are in a massive open world. Well, this one's only 3K landscape size, but still really large. You're not going to want the lower you go, the higher the chance that it's no longer going to generate. And then if you get too low, your system's going to crash because it's trying to do too much at once and your system can't handle it. So mess with these at your own risk. Don't go terribly low. If you go too high, you're going to see obvious squares of where each of the caches are at, because those are the bounds in which everything is generated within each of the partitions. So It's about finding a good balance for your map size, because you will be sitting around while things generate. Max child asset depth. We'll go more into detail of this when we get to the children, but this essentially keeps you from having children within children within children within children, uh, to uh, to control uh, that at this level. Then child input points, rate multiplier. So for each child, there's 10 children for that child, that kind of thing. Output data for runtime generation. Uh, Again, naturally, this has to be global. Water level, self-explanatory. We need to determine where the water level is. That way, when we are messing with the height, to determine how high things can go and how low things can start, um, this is what we utilize. Now then, for the graphs, um, these are here for those who wish to use them. We do not use them right now. This is a very advanced feature. So do use this at your own, I don't want to say peril, but at your own discretion. Um, Not something we are going to be going over in this video because, like I said, it is a very advanced option. Now, in order for this whole system to work, this graph is needed. We are just going to use the projected graph that is already here. I'll open it up so that we can quickly go over it. Use landscape as world origin, so it's going to find the pivot points of the landscape, and that's going to be world origin. And then it's going to tile this texture. I have it set at 30,000 by 30,000. If you don't want it to tile, then you need to make sure it matches exactly um, the landscape resolution times the scale. So it would be 302500 by 302500, and it would be matching the whole landscape perfectly. The target attribute name is, for this instance, is color, and the channels to project is XYZ, which if you look in the bottom left corner here, we have X, Y, and Z. So that's where that comes from. Then debug projection is so that we can see it. So if I go ahead and, okay, it's already in here. Let's save. Once we have it in the world, if I hit debug, we'll see what's there. So the next thing we need to do, now that we have everything set up how we need to, we now click into the world. And it is now placed the actor along with the appropriate bounds into the world. Now, it is ideal to have this Z height at the appropriate height. You don't want to have more generating than you need, because some of the generation does also go up and down. So we're going to go ahead and address that first. Another thing to note is that sometimes, let me find the designer here. Sometimes, because this goes the exact same Z as the landscape, this may be above it a little bit. So you need to make sure you adjust this perfectly. So let's first go ahead and we're going to open this bad boy up. We're going to zoom way the heck out. This way we can see our bounds. So I'm going to come into this other section here and let's change it to 35. And then we will hit generate general information. Which did not do what I anticipated it doing. One second here. Okay, so it does it live. Awesome. I made several changes to this version, and not all of them have been committed to memory yet, so I do apologize. So it's not there. That okay. It's changing it. That makes sense. So generate info. It's changed it here. I need to wait for this. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, we're a little too high and low. So we hit generate general info again. Still not low enough. Okay. Now we can lower it a bit. Change that to 0. Generate. All right. Looks good to me. So now everything will generate within these bounds. Absolutely amazing. So, quickly and briefly, after you've spawned it, as you can see, here's our biome data asset already placed for us. And that's exactly what it's for. We still need to add the actual biomes in order for the work to happen. And we also need to turn on the generation. Um, Obviously, I have that off for the moment. Tag the landscape. I'm still working on additional systems that'll work based off of the landscape specifically. Um, so that's just there right now for those who wants to tag it. It'll tag it to the word landscape. That way, if you have your own PCG systems, you can search for that and it will do the work for you. So you then have the bound size, which this math right here was done in the toolkit. We open this up. That's what the resolution and the scale are for. It does the math for us to set this up correctly. And then the sprite color, so this bad boy right here. It's a little too low for my liking. So I'm going to change it to 55. Gotcha. Let's just add a whole nother 0 here because I don't want to spend any more time on this. There we go. So then you can change the color. This just makes it easy to, select it. So there we go. And then our data asset. So we have here for tagging, which we did, the general info, which is for setting this up, and then generate PCG and clean PCG. So we're going to go ahead and hit generate PCG so that it can start doing its thing. You will see that it's going to start, as I said, doing its thing. It's a lot of work. Right now it's a little work because there's nothing there outside of this. So naturally, if I hit debug, let's hit escape here. So we're not selecting it. It is now showing us everywhere where the stuff is at. Now, don't worry about it being, scattered up and above and below the landscape. It projects everything to the landscape to make sure that it's set up correctly. As you can see, we have ourselves a nice, lovely pattern going on here. This is where we will do one level of our biome separation stuff. Go ahead and turn that off. And so that you guys can now better understand the biome cache. Because we have a debug here. Oh, let's do it in the right one. For display biome cache. Right now, it's most likely all going to be black, which is fine. But once we have biomes all set up, it will be the color of the biome. But this is what the biome cache looks like. Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and get this started. So I have gone ahead And there are several examples, and we are not going to be utilizing what's there in this. I'm going to be doing everything step by step. But I want to make sure it is all that you guys know where everything is at. Because unfortunately, creating biomes has to be done within the content browser. We can't do it in tools. Um, and that is what it is. So again, Wonderscape Creations, PCG, data, data assets, biomes, and then assets. We have biomes, children, generators, and mega assemblies. You're going to go into biomes. Here's the template. This is the all my examples that you can find in the biome example. So we're going to go ahead and right click. You don't have to put your stuff here. This is where I'm just choosing to put it because it's my stuff. And I'm going to create a new folder called YouTube example. And we need biome template. So then get a data asset. Biome template. And then we are going to call this one DA. How shall I name these this time? I do want them only on biome 1, so I will do biome 01. And then it will also be for the red. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Oh, one other thing that we need to set. These will be... No, that doesn't matter. If I need to have duplicates, I'll make it red 1, red 2, red 3. Let's go ahead and open it up. So this is used for everything. The biome splines, the biome landscape spline, and then you have the biome path spline. Everything utilizes this right here. You have the ability to have a singular runtime asset, and then you can have as many biome assets as you want. And as you can see, they're identical. It's just different how you would set things up. Anyways, the first thing and the most important thing is the characterization. So we need to give the biome a name and a color and the priority, because sometimes you're going to have biomes that share the same spaces, but there's going to be gaps that are different between each one. So meaning anywhere where it's empty for this one, the next generator that generates, or the next biome that generates there, will generate in the empty spaces where it is able to. So that's why that's important. So I'm going to name this biome 01 red. And then just to keep things consistent, I'll even, oh, right, we can't, that's got to be specific. We can't just choose the color. Can't believe I almost did that. So let's open this up, Color needs to match this right here. This is important when you are doing it in the first initial method. And I'll better explain that when we get into the landscape splines. So we need this red color. So I'm going to come here. Oh, this can be closed and this can be closed. Click on this. Over here, color picker, red. Okay. It's the exact same red now. That's important. It needs to stay that way. Now for the generator. If there is no generator, absolutely nothing will spawn. The generator is what does all of the magic as far as when it comes time to actually placing things down. Everything before it is distinguishing where each biome is and all, and the biome cache is and what to exclude, all of that. This is when we get into the important bits. So let's go ahead and create ourselves a generator, which we already saw is in assets. We have generators. And then we have the examples that I use in my project, in my example level. And then we have defaults. This is new. I've created a bunch of defaults that I encourage you guys to duplicate and utilize as your own. The reason for this is it gives you a good base of where to start. So I'm going to go ahead and do just that. I'll first create a new one called YT examples. And I'm going to go to the defaults again. And I want no slope. So I'm going to go with default no slope and hit copy here. There it is. Now I'm going to rename it. So DA biome 01 red generator. Now, obviously, if there's more generators, I'd be generator. Actually, let's do this. No slope generator. There we go. I'll go ahead and I will place that in here. Now let's open it up. So this is, like I said, where all the magic happens. There's a lot to unpack here, and we're going to, but first we need to make sure we name our generator. I will just name it Biome 01 Red No Slope. Let's put that right there. Yeah. So that is what we shall have it named. Now, let's go ahead and get this added so that we can see everything working in action. So it gets added here, biome data asset. We come here to the content browser. It's right here. Now, obviously, by using the content browser, I can't do it the way that I usually, well, actually I can do it just like this. It's important to note because I just taught somebody this. I didn't realize that it wasn't common knowledge. If we select this and drag it, oh, that's right, it's the generator. So we need to go to the biomes. There we go. Now we can place it. And we can keep doing it that as long as you place it right there. As you can see, things are generating. It's now taking a lot longer of a time because it is going through everything and doing a lot more math. Now, obviously, we don't see anything because we have not placed anything but the generator within the biome. However, that was intentional because now we want to turn on the debug generator so that we can see everywhere that it is placing cubes. And I encourage you to do it this way until you have your own defaults or you know how my defaults work. Interestingly enough, nothing spawned. Now the question is why? Let's go to the let's first go to the example here. I'm going to change the water level to 0 because I know where 0 is at. Hmm. All right, if you guys will go ahead and please just give me one moment, I will be right back. Okay, makes sense. Went through the graph to find out what the problem is, It's this spline right here because it looks for this spline and there's nothing in the graph, so it won't generate. So I'm going to go ahead and just lift that way up here for now. Okay. Then I guess I'm deleting it. That's unfortunate. Oh well. We'll go through it later. Now let's generate. It's annoying when the stuff won't show up. This stuff down here. So I did cleanup and generate PCG. Okay. So there they are. They're showing up right here because they only spawn where things are perfectly flat, which makes sense because I'm over here looking at the mountains like, why aren't they showing up perfectly flat? I need more sleep. So let's go ahead and continue on with this. So now that we know where currently water level 0, where the water level is at, let me close a couple things here. So let's go ahead and deal with this. Let's see where that goes. So the reason that it wasn't generating these points for us, if there are not a same number of things being counted as there are, the system's being slow as it's generating. Let me find. As there are these, then there's a problem. Then it's going to start not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Why did it stop generating altogether when I went to negative 10,000? I probably went way too low. Actually, it's 100,000. That was my fault. But anyways, it is important to understand that. It's extremely important to understand that there needs to be something anywhere where there's a slot for a biome data asset. If it's empty, the generator's not going to work. Okay, looks like we got stuff popping up here, which is fine. All right, so things are starting to pop up down there. Yep, they're down there. None are showing up here, and I'm not willing yet to say that it's because it's not flat enough. We're going to go down another 5,000. Okay, we got stuff starting to pop up. There we go. That's why it's important to do things in a debug mode first. It's far cheaper and far faster and will allow us to get things where we want them. Now then, in hindsight, I probably should have gone with one that had a little bit of slope. It would make this far easier. But that's okay, because I can come here to this one real quick, this generator, just so that I can get more. Flatness, yeah, I want to make sure there's nothing anywhere. It was 0.95, so I'll make sure I remember that. We should see more points generate. Probably not many more, but there will be more. All right. Since we're doing this, another thing we will go ahead and do is we're going to change this up a bit. We're going to make this a 4. Copy, paste. It doesn't have to be perfectly square. It's just what I want. I'm going to let it do its thing. I shouldn't have closed that. Oh no, I only needed the texture, which is right there. So that can be closed. All right. The areas are quite a bit bigger, which it was my goal. And the reason why I'm doing this again is I'm trying to get this at the perfect level because, you know, this is the water. I want to make sure I'm fairly close to it. So we'll go down another 1,000 and see how much into the dirt I go. All right. Now we have ourselves a little bit of a reference right here. Perfect. So we want to alter this a little bit. So I'd imagine. So, you know, right here it's perfect. It doesn't go in, which means that it's probably the wave noise that's doing it. So I'll actually leave it as it is. You'll see why in a minute. Okay, so there's our water level. Sorry for that monotonous work. Things I promise will be speeding up very soon. So let me put this back up to 0.95. As you can see, we're losing a whole bunch. And that's to be expected. You wanted things that were flat enough. All right. Generation appears to be done. So the next thing, and this I didn't do by default because it's determined by you guys. We are now going to determine which physical material to read from. These physical materials needs to be turned on. So we're going to go ahead and first find one. I'm going to get the Biome 01 and then use physical materials. Now when it generates, it will only generate in the grass. And there we go. It is only in the grass. Pretty nifty. And now this is set up. So I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to turn off this debug. And we're going to go right into here. So now we need, this is where we determine what spawns in these areas. We're obviously going to choose a mesh. And then we can go from there and make the variations and changes that we need. We can add more indexes. You can have the same generator or a different generator. It's really up to us. So now then, let's take a look here. We have a lot here. I didn't want to deal with fab with you guys on this video, so I went ahead and got a whole bunch of stuff added. We have the black alder, common hazel, and Norway maple for trees. Cliffs and rocks pack for rocks. Grass library, and a plants pack. That way I can make sure that we get everything in here. So let's first go ahead and do that. We're going to want to first do trees. It's going to be very light on the trees because we are in a field. I intentionally want this to be less tree-y, I guess is the word. But we do want trees. So I'm going to pick a Norway maple. We're going to go to foliage, simple wind. We're going to keep things super light and simple. Here we have field trees. So this is what I'm going to want to use. However, yeah, that's what I thought. Simple wind. We need the static meshes, not what they had made for using old systems. Anyways, go ahead and grab this. Place that right in here. We're going to immediately see this thing fill up with trees. However, yeah, we got time. It's still dark outside. I live on a farm. While this is loading, I'll let you guys know that. And that requires me to go take care of farm animals at a certain time. I don't do it on a time basis. I do it on the when the sun is up basis. Um, you know, we're in the beginnings of fall, so it's a little dark later than I am used to. But I will be right back once this is done loading. Alright, it looks like things are now starting to generate. That happens whenever you open up a static mesh these days, especially for the first time. And look at that. We got ourselves a bunch of trees. And you can tell from here that they're all blowing in the wind. It's a bit extreme for my liking, that is for sure. So I'm going to change that right now. That's what you get for choosing simple wind, I guess. Let's see, where is it? Wind. That. Take your time. Sometimes this stuff is ridiculous. Don't want to make you guys wait, so be right back. All right, now we still got the branches doing it, so we need to find the branches. It's probably this. Wind, yep. 0.2. There. Fantastic. So now that we have that set up correctly, close those, don't need it. Let's take a look here because let's be completely and totally honest. This is freaking massive. Which is fine in most cases. But now let's go ahead and make things how they should be. So first thing to note, it's in the path. We don't want it in the path. So let's go ahead and we are going to use landscape info. And we are going to remove it. Trying to think here. Because right now, auto material. Because none of it's painted. So we'll let it do its thing. Trees are starting to come back here. Should not show up right here. Awesome. We're good to go on that front. So now, in the generator as well, we've got an issue here. We got this tree that's leaning way the heck over that way, which just doesn't look all that natural now, does it? So we are going to come here to the transform info and select use absolute rotation. And we're going to see this change really quick. Well, as quick as the generation will allow it. Okay. Looks like that is still technically within the bounds that was set. That's a bit too extreme for me then. At least for these trees. So let's change this to -3, -3, 3, 3. Okay, we're gonna let it do its thing. And when the tree comes back, it should be doing really well. There we go. Much better. Much, much better. Let's let it finish doing the generation though. Almost done. There we go. So we now have that set up how we want. And these trees, like I said, are massive. And that's perfectly fine. First thing we are going to want to do is we're going to come in over here. I do want to note to you all that by default, where is it? I think it's in mesh options. Allow collision is off. You'll need to turn that on. That's fine, not a big deal. But for your games, you will want to turn that on. I wanted to say it before I forget, just in case we didn't get to it. So, first thing we're going to want to do is I'm going to come here to pruning options, because at some point, I'm going to want, grass and everything growing close to these things. And it's not going to happen right now because the box for this covers the entire tree. So nothing would grow right there. And to show that, I will come here to debug options and do show bounds. And we're going to see some boxes show up. There we go. It's important to understand that it's covering the entirety of the tree, no matter how big it is, which means nothing would generate there. And we don't want that, especially because it's a tree. There's stuff that should be able to generate underneath of it. So to do that, to take care of that, we can come here to the bounds multiplier for index pruning. And if we, it'll show us what happens. Change this to 0.2 and 0.2. Now, when everything generates back, that box is going to be smaller. Considerably smaller. So this may be big enough for you, it may, or small enough for you, it may not. It's completely and totally up to you to alter this how you see fit. The next thing we want to do is to keep things from populating next to each other, this large. They're too close, in my opinion. So the next thing to do is the self prune extents multiplier for self pruning. If we turn it on, currently nothing's going to happen because now none of these boxes are overlapping, which is what this self prune extents multiplier is for. We're going to let it do its thing so that everything doesn't disappear, because when you change two things, the whole thing disappears. And we're going to change this to, let's change it to 3. And now we will see some of these trees in front of us disappear. At least we should. There are 3 of these that are very close to each other. Oh, there we go. And we now already have fewer trees. Yeah. Still far too many, but that will be addressed at a different moment. I like how we have these super teeny tiny ones here. We'll go over that at a different time. Actually, we'll go over that now. That seems a little too extreme. Let's see here. That should be, if I'm correct here, from the slope. So let's first change that, just in case that's the issue. Alrighty, density info. It's not the density, because this is the scale. Oh, that's right. There's it isn't density though. Scale min, scale max, and the exponent. They're out. Everything's at 1. Cool. Looks like we just get some teeny tiny trees. That's fine. They're going to disappear. Most of them, anyways. The next thing we want to do is get a. We're going to set the weights to 0.2. We're going to add another element. Get this generator to place right there. This one will be at a 1. And we are going to get ourselves let's go with some grass. Meshes. Let's pick ourselves a grass mesh here. We'll pick this one. Just gonna start generating. You're gonna see these a bunch of these trees disappear. At least you should. Because there's so few of them. So few points. All right. All right, that's fine. I got a different way to prune this. Let's first get some. Yeah, rocks. That'll do it. Meshes. Cliff big, ground cliffs, huge cliff. Medium rocks. First off, we don't need snow. So let's go ahead and open this up. And it's not that one. that on. And this is pretty much the process. And it's a very lengthy and long process. So I don't want to cut you guys off and not allow you guys to follow along. It's just something you guys need to be aware of. Go ahead and change that to this. We're going to see them. You can already see them. They all look currently ridiculous, and that's to be expected. And this is why we need to have a different generator here. So I'm going to duplicate this one because I know what I'm doing. Open it up. I'm going to change the slope to 0.7. And then I'm also going to change the spatial noise to 0.5. Hit save there. Obviously, we're not seeing anything yet, but so you guys can know what spatial noise does, because that's one of the ways that we're going to more greatly limit the trees. I'm going to change this to 0.2. Let's go with 0.5. It's that, and we will now see changes happening. In theory, some of these trees should disappear. All right, looks like they did not, which is interesting but fine, makes sense. It's removing a bunch of points, so we didn't see any change here. It doesn't mean that something didn't reduce somewhere else. As you can see, we got ourselves an actually fairly nice looking natural version of clumping. So let's go ahead and deal with these rocks here. I'm going to come here, and this is going to be this. Open it. There's a few other things I forgot to change, such as this, negative 180, negative 180, 180, 180. Don't use absolute rotation, and we will go with 5. That's not natural. Change you back to 1. Alright, there seems to be a bug going on, which happens sometimes. Clean the PCG, generate again. See if that solves the problem. Oh, no, I know what the bug is. I know what the bug is. This name right here. It's not a bug. It's user error. They cannot be named the same. System doesn't know how to handle that. There we go. stuff spawning. Looks nice, looks good. So change that to 5. All right. Still insanely dark out there. There's a lot of storms going on. As you can see, we now have this beautiful rocky setup. Now, I don't care about self-pruning all that much. Well, I do a little bit, but not a terrible amount. I'm going to go ahead and first turn off the show bounds, since that example is understood now. And bounds pruning for index. I think we will actually indeed do some pruning here of our own kind. Not sure how much of it will reduce, because nothing seems to be overlapping much. There we go. No, I like the way it looked better, so we're going to put that back. And what we will do instead is make this 0.6. And the surface sampler, we'll make 0.4, 0.04 on the points per square meter. This is literally how this toolkit works. And it has been an hour, and I don't want to keep you guys going crazy on watching all of this, so I'm going to pause it and get the whole thing set up so that you can see how it works, and then we can go over everything section to section. All right, everybody. Sorry about that. Didn't want this to be a 5-hour video. So this is just a single biome area with the biome colors, obviously. I don't have every biome color filled, and that is intentional because this is meant to be an open field. As you can see, I've got some lovely looking grass here. Ooh. And, I've got the whole area generating. And it all looks quite nice. So, I wanted to make sure you guys saw what one biome looks like before I continued on to get the next one. And honestly, like I said, it's 2 biome colors within the biome. I've got, let me close that, don't need it at the moment, don't need that at the moment. I have a generator called all, that way if I decided to fill more of them, I can, but I've just got red and blue that are filled right now, so everywhere where there's red and blue, something is filled. I might actually want to change it to light blue now that I think about it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that's because there's going to be more patchiness. So let's go ahead and just quickly go to the blue. Click on that. Come here. And we're going to go with light blue. Hit OK. And we won't see a terrible amount of change because I have it super thin in the blue section intentionally. But yeah, this is what Biome 1 looks like now. We saw some trees popping up. So we know the job is being done. It's just 3 generators and 2 biomes that did... Sorry, 4 generators and 2 biomes that did all of this work. 1 for each section for the rocks and 1 for each section of the trees. As far as the generators go, I mean. For the biomes, it's per color. So, that's the beauty of the whole thing. There is currently, obviously, like I said, no collision in either of them. So let me close these. But, as you can clearly see, it all works and it all looks very, very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it here and get the second biome taken care of now. All right, so as you can see now, I've got biome 2 going. Go ahead and hop on into this world. As you can see here, we've got a fully populated and beautifully generated world. Obviously, there's some sharpening up that needs to happen. This tree right here should not be generating at this slope, or it needs to go down more. So I'll go ahead and take care of that. But as you can see, we have ourselves a forest. And if I zoom on out of here, completely and totally generated. Not a thing done with splines yet, but that's what's going to be next. So we are going to go ahead and do just that. We have our path right here. I'm going to go ahead and create the biome for it, and then I'll be right back so that we can get the path all set up. All right, so for some reason it works in my developer's version, but in my YouTube version, the path spline is not working as intended for making biomes. So whether it works or not, I am unsure. I'll definitely take any feedback from you guys on that fact, because if it doesn't work for anybody else, then that means that there's something weird going on with my version in that instance. So with that, I had to go with using a normal biome instead of a biome spline. I mean, instead of a path spline. But as you can see, we got tiny little rocks spawning down the whole path. It is just a biome spline placement, which I'm going to show for the cliffs, to show off that you can generate just on the cliffs utilizing this. But before I do that, as I said right now, I just had to paint a biome spline on both sides of my path. Again, please let me know how it works. And if it works in your guys' projects, because if it does, then there's just something wrong with this map or this project or something or other, at which point I'll narrow it down from there. But if it's working for nobody, then it's easy, just remove it. This is one of the ways that you can do it. The other one is obviously to just go into the Biomes Designer, since we did paint this on there, and then just create one for each color for the biomes, and then place it in there with the dirt paint layer as a filtering option. That's all you need to do for that. Now for the cliff. So there is an exclusion spline and a biome spline, and luckily we have tools for that. So let's go here and do cliff. So as you can see, I've got my beautiful, lovely cliffs here. Do note that this is extremely ugly. I did not take the time to make this look perfect. I took the time to make sure it worked. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint on here real quick. And then PCG is going to place the cliffs for me. And as you can see, here they are starting to generate. And there we go. We now have our cliffs. So you are going to be able to have your own cliffs. If I go ahead and I'm going to hit escape here. Oh, and before I do that, just as an FYI for you guys, if you are placing these down and you decide, no, I don't want it here, I want to do it somewhere else, just hit the escape key. It'll delete everything and end the tool, so you won't have to worry about that. But anyways, we come here to this spline right here, and we go to the cliff, and then in the cliff, we see right here, I've named it generator cliff. This is a duplicate from, here, let's do it in here. PCG. Oh, it's in data assets, biomes, assets, generators, defaults. I have the cliff ones right here, and I believe it's just defaulted on cliff, um, which all it does is make the flatness very, very low so that it will only spawn on the cliffs. That's the only difference between that and pretty much everything else, just showing that the generator does most of the work for you. I'm going to go ahead and close those. And then we have two final, oh, before we go into those two final ones, in this instance where I did this biome like this, for some reason, this stuff did not generate right away. I had to click on the spline and then get a spline point and jiggle it, then it spawned. I think it has something to do with the fact with how long it is. So it's covering a large area, which apparently my system does not account for yet. I'll definitely look into that. But anyways, we have the mesh and the assemblies tools. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So this will take anything that we've already seen. And then, so I'm going to go ahead and take one of my examples here. Biome Designer. We'll go ahead and get the red one. Place that in here. And then when I place it, it places the actor for us. Now, I've done everything in my power. For some reason, I can place it. You can place it, but it's not going to generate until you move it. So now that we've moved it, let it do its thing, and there you go. Generates something from that point. Or rather from that data asset. I believe it's going to only be from the first index, if I recall correctly. So it is what it is, but it works for the single mesh. So you can either create a unique data asset for a specific mesh or pick something that you already have, and it'll always pick the first one. Next up is the assemblies tool. Sorry, one second. Excuse me. You can either choose the projected version or the landscape patch version. I'm going to stick with the projected version. And then you can choose an assembly example. It's the only one I have, so that's what I'm going to use to show it off. And then you can choose which graph to use. Obviously, it shows all of them. Right now, I only have one assemblies version, so only use this one. That's why it's here. Down the road, I'll make a list, and then there can be an other. That way, if you make your own custom one, it'll work. But anyways, we go ahead and pick the data asset we want. Click there, and there you go. Spawned everything you wanted in there. And wow, the way assemblies work. Let me go ahead and just click on this. There is within it a data asset. If I open up this data asset, which by the way we chose in the assemblies window, it shows the assembly that was made. This assembly one, this mega assembly one, is from not from this BP mega assembly one, but from this level mega assembly one. I have another video where I show you how to make mega assemblies. So I'm not going to redo that in this video. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that tool. So continuing on to the final thing is obviously the biome exclusion. Very well known. There's exclusions everywhere already. So I don't want these here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them. And it will go ahead and delete everything within that spline. There we go. That is everything. So we will go ahead and end this third video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Look forward to a bunch more of mini videos going over step by step of the new stuff that has been added, similar to ones that are already on my channel. Thank you and have a great day.